You're listening to the Oklahoma Onstage podcast, where we sit down with people from the bustling theater scene in the great state of Oklahoma. We hope you enjoy your time with us. If you do, please share the podcast with those you know. If you'd like to know more about who we are and what we do, visit us on Facebook or Instagram, or go to our website, oklahomaonstage.org. Now hang on to your hat. We're starting another episode right now.
Welcome back, everybody. We're sitting here with a very special guest tonight. Every now and then on this show, I get to talk with someone who isn't just a guest. Okay, they're actually part of my story. And tonight's one of those nights. Some people find theater, some people chase theater, and some people are simply born into it. Tonight, I'm sitting down with somebody who grew up backstage with the spotlights and the sawdust, watching her mother build stories from scratch. And now she's shaping a world for a whole new generation. She's a second-generation theater maker, a familiar face in Shawnee Little Theater, and the driving force behind North Rock Creek High School Drama Department. She's someone I've had the privilege of sharing the stage with, of learning from, and laughing with over the years. This conversation is personal. It's rooted in legacy. And it's a chance to pull back the curtain on the journey of someone who has spent her entire life turning stages into home. Oklahoma Onstage family, it is my honor and privilege to welcome my dear friend, Brandy Bond, to the podcast. Welcome, sis.
Hi. Hi, everybody.
Good to have you, finally. We're going to have a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's an honor to be here.
Oh, sweet. So, elephant in the room, we always jump in this way. Tell us a little bit about your journey.
I began at Shawnee Little Theater as what we affectionately call a green room baby. So, at Shawnee Little Theater, the green room is actually green. It definitely was even greener back in the day, but, it's a little room in the very back. And, at that time, there was a play with a whole bunch of people who had graduated together in 1967. And, my mom was in that group, and Ida Worthington and David Collum and Robert Lupton and a whole bunch of other people who were in that graduating class. And they all decided to do a play. And it was called State of the Union. And when they decided to do that, they needed a bellhop. And no little boys tried out. And so they asked if I would cut my hair and pretend like I was a little boy. I was probably 7 or 8 years old. And I did. And I remember watching Mom through the curtains and thinking like how glamorous she was, because I was used to seeing like the robe and slippers mom at home. And she would wear these beautiful costumes and was playing a woman who would flirt and seduce men. And that was funny to me. But I would watch through, like from the vomitoriums, I would watch her and just think, not that she was living a lie or anything like that, just thinking that she was unbelievable at her craft. And I wasn't thinking I wanted to be on stage or anything like that. I just was enjoying the magic, you know? And so when they said, "Hey, do you want to play this role?" I said, yeah. And they were like, "You'll have to be a boy." And I was like, "I don't care. Yeah." So, and I remember the first time I got a laugh in that role. And I remember the Sunday crowd, which usually has an older group that comes because it happens in the afternoon, has a matinee. And so the demographic is usually a little older because they don't want to get out in the evening time. And so I remember a lady who didn't know she was speaking so loudly turned to another lady and said, "Isn't he the cutest little boy?" And I could hear her out loud say that, and remembering not being offended, but thinking, I've done it. I've pulled the wool over their eyes. They think I'm a boy. And being so proud. And then I remember getting sick and having a temperature of 104 and still going out and doing the role, and everybody backstage telling me how proud they were of me, that I still went out there and that nobody could tell I was sick. That felt really good, that I could go out there and like muscle through and like do a good job anyway. And I remember going to the urgent care the next day and saying to the doctor, I did a play last night, even though I was sick, because I had to. Like, I just felt so brave. But that's when it began, and it was magical. And after that play, I asked my mom, I said, when is the next one? And she laughed and she said, they do mainly adult plays out there. And I said, okay. And I tried out for a lot of kid roles, and I didn't get any until another play came up that my mom was in. And I kept on trying out for kid roles and kept on trying out for kid roles in plays that I didn't know people, and I never really got cast. Because I don't think I really auditioned well, because I have dyslexia. So I didn't read well. But the people who had worked with me knew that I could grow a character.
Mm-hmm.
So they trusted what I could do. It wasn't until I was older that I got better at auditioning. But it was really, it was a good time for me to build in confidence, you know?
Yeah.
So that's how it all started. And Mom just kept on taking me out there and saying, well, if you don't have somebody, I have Brandy here. And then I would say, okay, I'll do it.
Okay. So your mom was a teacher, director, and actress. What did normal look like in your house compared to other kids' homes?
Oh, well, I think you probably know this because of you doing theater. There was always a massive piece of furniture gone because it was on stage somewhere. Yeah, it had to be at the theater. Like, I remember eating dinner on the floor because our living room, our dining room table was being used at the theater. And so my dad would come home and he'd go, oh, what play are we doing now? There's no place to eat. And I'd be like, yeah, that's true. We would see certain things on stage and I would be like, that's grandma's. Like, it was amazing. My mom and dad also dealt in antiques. And I didn't know if they dealt in antiques because they got them for theater and just had them and were like, we've got to get rid of them. Or if they dealt in antiques and then they were like, hey, we could do theater with these. But but that was really cool. And nighttime was always filled with, the theater was the living room, like in front of the fireplace. Like it's like the fireplace was like the stage, and my mom would sit on the couch and she would watch me and she would say, get up there and do your lines. And she would always tell me, don't sit to memorize your lines, walk while you memorize your lines, because the minute you get up there, you're going to forget them.
Absolutely.
And I'd say, okay. So I'd get up there and I'd walk in a circle, or I'd pace back and forth, or she'd say, do jumping jacks now because it's a really active scene. And I'd say, okay. And so I'd do like really active stuff. And then, she would ramble off my cue line and I would have to give it back to her. And she was like, now do it different. Something that she would often say is, and something else would be, And what's another way? How else could you say that? What if you felt this way? And like she would always tell me to do it different every single time. She said, do you like that one? And I said, no, it felt weird. She'd say, okay, well then try something new. Like, there was always so much grace for mistakes. But they weren't mistakes. They weren't mistakes. They were like, there was so much grace for immediate, intentional, new ideas. Like she was like, try something new. Try something new. And so it's like mistakes were steps to finding the diamond. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It was like it was a pile of coal and we were just searching for the diamond.
Absolutely.
So
yeah, it's the whole Thomas Edison thing. It's like how many he failed so many times. He goes, well, I found out there's 99 things that don't work.
That's right. So we'd do that.
Absolutely. Excellent. So do you remember the moment when theater stopped being my family's thing and became my thing?
Yes. I went to audition for Oklahoma Summer Arts Institute. And I didn't even know it existed. I went to Liberty Academy. And so a lot of things like OSSAA competition and things like that, we never did those because we weren't in that jurisdiction. So we never did those competitions. But OSSAA was open to anybody. And so I went ahead and applied. And I found out about it my senior year. And I did it. It was really cool. I did it with my best friend, Jeremy Duvall, who is an excellent dancer. He's a professor at OCU now and teaches jazz. An unbelievable educator and artist. So we applied, we auditioned, and we both got in. And when we went, I was blown away at the level of educators that were there for us. Like the person that was there for me was the undergraduate head of theater at Yale. And I was flabbergasted. And we created an organic piece while we were there. And I was away from home for 2 weeks, away from my mom. And it was like, it's time to cut the cord. But I was like, Mom, I miss you. And she said, are you serious? Are you serious? You miss me and you're there. You stop thinking about me and do what you love. And I remember by the end of that 2 weeks, I could have gone to Timbuktu as long as it was about theater. And I came home and I laid on the bed and told my mom everything that we did. And she smiled and she teared up and she said, B, I think you're passing me in what you know. And I said, oh, no. And she goes, no, you're right. I know a lot more than you, but I think you're going to. I think you're going to, sis. And I said, I don't know if I'll ever, and I really don't know if I ever will know more than her in the things that I think everybody knows what they know because of experience. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like, I think that you know things that you have experienced that I haven't experienced yet, and you can teach me. Do you know what I mean? I think I am taught every day by my students at North Rock.
Absolutely.
I think people who think that they can't be taught are done.
Sure.
So, yeah. But yeah, that was when I was like, I'm my own entity. I can learn something and I finally can bring it back to Mom. And she was like, oh, B, you could have always. And I was like, really? Oh, that's precious, you know?
Okay. So thinking outside of the theater, you being an educator, you obviously went through that journey in college to become an educator. So thinking outside the theater, has there been anyone that has helped shape the way you lead as a teacher or tell a story?
Well, my mom, of course, she was an educator and she did not just teach theater. She taught anatomy and biology because she actually is a registered nurse. And that's what she taught at Liberty. That's what she started teaching. And she taught drama. And I was influenced. A woman named Thixie Toddy, no joke, that's her name. Coolest name ever.
That's pretty slick.
I know, she is pretty slick. She's about 5 foot, and like she don't take no guff from nobody. I remember my mom was very, very sick. My mom, before she passed, like her whole entire life, she struggled with Crohn's disease, and she had 2 bowel resections, and one of them was pretty serious. And we didn't know if she was going to make it. And I was in junior high at the time. And Thixie Toddy saw that my grades were slipping. And she took me out in the hall and she was like, look, miss, I do not know what's going on. And she was like probably 5 inches shorter than me and like had me up against the wall and was chewing me up one side and down the other. And I said, I just don't know what's going on with my mom. And I just broke. And she looked at me and she said, do you think that your mama would want you to just break down and stop taking care of your business? And I said, no, ma'am. And she was like, that's right. And I know it's really hard. I said, but you come in here, you come have a cry on my shoulder, and then we'll take care of business. Okay? Because we got to take care of business. The world is hard and things are going to happen always. But you got to take care of your business, sister. And I said, okay. And she was like, all right. And I was scared of her till the last day that I had her. But I also craved her guidance. And I craved her care. I needed somebody to hold me accountable because mom was so sick she couldn't. Because my mom was tough like that. I have a picture of Miss Thixie Toddy and myself in my classroom. And I show my kids all the time. I said, guys, this is Thixie Toddy. She is not a teacher who was a comfortable teacher. She held me. She was an iron sharpens iron teacher. And I said, and sometimes you need to be told the uncomfortable truth about your behavior. And especially in theater. Especially when you are a kid that's this age, because theater takes a lot of discipline and a lot of like self-reflective behavior. And I don't know about you, Tim, but there are a lot of times I don't want to look at myself. I don't want to look at myself in the mirror. And it's one of those things where you don't have to be a jerk about it, but just saying, hey, be honest. Be the person in the pew saying, is this message about me? Or is this message for so-and-so over there and that's all I'm listening about? You know what I mean?
Heck, that's originally why I got into theater, so I didn't have to be that guy in the mirror. You know, like for a while I could be somebody else.
Right. But it all comes back to saying, okay, really, who am I?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I love that. I love that about theater. And so even though she was never a theater teacher, she was always that person who was like, little miss, take a look at yourself. And I was like, okay, yes, ma'am. And so anyway, I just love that. I love that about her. I have to be careful though, because theater kids, we are a sensitive group. Very impressionable, very sensitive. And our egos can be easily bruised. We also, a lot of them won't try unless they can be perfect at first. And so to be able to make those mistakes that I made in front of my mom, it's really hard. It's really hard. So you have to be a safe space. So you have to have a relationship with the child before you ever say, hey, it's time to look at ourselves a little closer. You have to have a relationship.
Yeah.
You know, you can't play that role until you have a relationship. Miss Thixie Toddy had a relationship with me by the time she chewed me out. By the time she chewed me up one side and down the other.
That's good.
Yeah, it was. And it was influential and very intentional and purposeful. And it helped tremendously.
Think about those kids that are dealing with that have those self-esteem issues, that have, you know, the imposter syndrome, all of
don't we all?
Right?
Yeah.
But once we learn through those experiences that we can do those things, it makes those shy, sensitive impressionable kids so much stronger
Yeah.
once
Yeah.
they see that they can do anything.
Yeah.
So, okay, so picking up on this journey of building Brandy, back in 2018, you did an interview and you talked about how you never thought you'd be a teacher.
True.
That with ADHD and dyslexia, it felt almost ridiculous to imagine yourself in that role.
Right.
But then you discovered that you were not only capable, but that you were exceptional.
Yeah.
Walk us through that transformation. What changed?
I don't want to. Well, okay. I was in Michigan, with my ex-husband, and he was doing his medical residency, and so I was quite alone. And so, I started working as a creative arts director in a mega church. I'm talking like we had 3 services every Sunday, and we'd have 1,000 kids come through every service. So it's a lot of kids. It's kind of like Willow Creek in Chicago, but it was in Detroit. So really large church. And so I was the creative arts director of the youth group. And so I was in charge of, they had a puppet team, they had a praise and worship team, and they had a theater group. And they had leads or heads of each of those groups, and I was in charge of them. Well, their theater head wasn't there, and so they asked if I would be the theater head, and they said, well, you actually have a degree in it, so do you think you could do the creative arts thing and that, and we'll pay you for both? And I was like, pay me. That sounds great. And so,
You get paid for this?
I know you can get paid for theater. So anyway, I went ahead and did it. I wrote a play while I was there. I did all kinds of stuff, but I had it like a class. And I remember while I was with them, how incredibly focused they were and like really, really serious about it. And I found myself talking to them about things like Sanford Meisner and Jerry Grotowski and Augusto Boal. And I was like, why am I talking about like theater criticism with high school kids? This is way above their heads, blah, 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 blah. And it was not way above their heads. They were eating it up. They were asking questions, and they were utilizing the things I was telling them. And then the group started to grow. And my mom came to visit to see Nathaniel, my son. And she saw, and she said, you were never going to be a teacher. And I said, I'm not. I run a youth group that does it. And she said, you're teaching.
Yep.
Be careful, you're teaching. And I said, well, another reason I didn't want to is my dad taught at a VOTEC. My mom taught. My sister's a teacher. They're all teachers. And I was like, not me. I'm not going to do that.
I think it was unavoidable.
It was unavoidable. It was in my blood. It was in my veins. It was in my nature. But whenever I worked with them, there was such a rush and an excitement about it. And so, but whenever I came back, I was like, no, I don't want to do theater. I'm going to do English. And I was like, I have dyslexia and ADHD, but I focused hard, man. And I did it. I read the books. I had like 150 pages of reading every night, and I did it with Kevin's help. That's my present husband. And I say present like he's going to go away. My forever husband, the love of my life. So anyway,
He's a present.
He is a present. Yes, he is. So anyway, so he is the one that helped me. and helps me take care of our beautiful babies. And I got done and was going to teach English. And then Brent Houston called and was like, hey, you want to teach theater? Because you've got an education degree. And did you test for theater and English? And I said, yeah. And he was like, come on. And I was like, okay. And I never taught English. I just taught theater. And I was like, what am I doing?
Where was that first one at?
Shawnee Middle.
Shawnee Middle.
Yeah. And it was wonderful. I got nominated as teacher of the year that I guess second year. It was beautiful. It was a beautiful experience. I loved all my time there at Shawnee Middle. I loved all my time at Shawnee Middle. I loved all my time at Shawnee High School. And then I moved to North Rock, primarily because my children went there and I was missing milestones. I was missing huge milestones. So Nathaniel and Bowie I'd go to work at Shawnee at like 7 a.m. and I wouldn't get home until like 9 p.m. And they're like losing teeth and like learning how to ride bikes while I'm gone, And their stepdad, who is like their dad, is, telling me about all these amazing things. I got it on video and I'm like,
yeah, that's hard.
That's so hard because, being a theater teacher and having children, I guess it's better than being in like a company or being in a traveling, like a touring company or something like that. But I mean, it is, if you're at the same school, you can just take them with you. You can say, okay, well, when you're done with class, just come to my classroom afterwards. But they were they were at North Rock. And it was the first school they really, really loved and felt comfortable at. And so after all the tumultuous changing that they had because of the divorce, I did not want to take them out of North Rock because they felt really loved and connected there. And so I thought, well, I need to care about that. That's something I really need to care about. So I put family first and then moved out to North Rock. So.
Okay, so throughout your journey, high school, college, teaching, whether on stage or directing, has there been one role that still just lives in your bones?
Doreen from Tartuffe.
And where was that?
OBU. It was the last play that Marion Castleberry directed before he became in charge of the graduate program at Baylor. It was a huge step up for him.
Yeah.
And he's passed away now, but he's done. I love Horton Foote, the playwright Horton Foote, and he did studies. He stayed with Horton Foote for a year and wrote a book about him, and was good friends with Horton Foote, and he studied with Arthur Lesack in New York, and I don't know how OBU got him, but it was a miracle that it's he was in transition, I guess, and just needed to slow down for a bit. But OBU had him, and our stars aligned, and we were there at the same time, and I got the best of it because he was so good. He was so good. And Tartuffe was one of those plays that, is tongue-in-cheek kind of naughty. And there was question as to whether or not OBU was going to be I don't think so. And I have a feeling he might have been let go. If not for doing Tartuffe, but for doing Tartuffe the way it was intended. For the way it was intended. And he chose to do it the way it was intended. But he knew he was going to Baylor. So he was kind of bye, suckers. And just totally did it the way that Tartuffe intended it to be. For it to be truly satirical and funny the way it needed to be, Tartuffe needed to be the slimy dude he was. And he played him slimy and did the tableaus and everything just like Moliere intended. And it was a beautiful piece. And we rented costumes from, I think, Oregon Shakespeare, because they were unbelievable. Like mine alone cost like $385 to rent.
Wow.
It was unbelievable. It was a gorgeous, gorgeous costume. And I had to be corseted in it every night. And it was like, it was insane. And it's probably the most professional piece I've ever done. And everybody in that cast was like, this is his swan song. Let's go out in a blaze of glory. And so, yeah, it was wonderful. I love Doreen. She's such a great character. So,
well, not to beat a dead horse. I don't think it's a dead horse, but anyway, that's the slang. You've been open about, and we talked about it a little bit, growing up with ADHD and dyslexia, and how long it took you to see yourself as smart enough to teach.
yes.
Now you're the adult in the room.
Mhm.
Well, sort of.
Kind of.
Isn't that scary? It's like,
Yeah, well, and I mean, is that really what you want out of a drama teacher? I mean, to act mature, yes, but
but you're still a kid at heart.
you got to pick up the stick and pretend it's a sword.
Oh, of course. So now you're the adult in the room telling students that their disabilities don't define them.
Amen.
What does that responsibility feel like for you today?
Very personal. It's a personal thing for me, and I have students all the time. This is one that's going to get me. I have a student, and of course I'm not going to mention names, but I have a student who has not passed his grade twice. There's a lot of past trauma from things that have happened, but on top of that, there are some learning disabilities, but there's not intellectual deficit at all. Like, I look at him and I'm like, you are stinking brilliant. He has no idea for the most part. Like, when he started, he was like, and we've had moments where his face is like cradled in my hands where I'm just like, can you not see that you're smarter than most people? Can you not see it? Can you not see that you have a right to belly up to the college bar? Do you not see that you have a right to do XYZ? Do you not see that you have a right to get the lead in the play? And he will say things like, oh, I can't read it. I can't read it. And I said, so how are we going to memorize it? And I always say we. I never say, how are you? I say, how are we?
Yeah.
How are we going to do this? I feel like the way we speak to students is so important. So if you say, how are we going to do this? And then they're like, is it really us? Is it we are going to do this? Okay. Then we are going to, I record it. And I say, that's right. Cause you've got a phone and you've got voice memos and you're going to, say it. We're going to put your line there and you're going to say it with you're going to read it and you're going to say it with your own voice. So I'm going to tell it to you and you're going to read it out loud. You're going to say it while you read it. I'm going to say it first, then you're going to say it. And it sounds like it takes forever. Because guess what? It takes forever.
It takes forever. Yeah.
It takes forever. But the fact is he's so good, Tim. He's so good.
Hey, it's whatever works.
He's so good. And I think about people like James Earl Jones, who at the Goodman Theater was he was just, I believe when he first started at the Goodman Theater in Chicago, he was just a custodian, and they needed somebody to come up on stage and play a colored role, is what they had said. We need somebody to play a colored role. And he was like, well, I am Black, but I have a stuttering problem and I can't speak. One of the greatest voices of all time.
Right.
The greatest voice of all time didn't have the confidence to speak a line. I cannot even believe that.
No, it's
The
crazy.
richest, most beautiful voice, James Earl Jones. And so, like, I just think about people who half the battle is telling them they can. You know what I mean? And so,
They
and
need a champion.
yeah, and I've had kids whose parents have told them when they've been cast in plays, you can't sing, why did you get the part? And I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah, don't do it. Don't ever do that.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's personal. It's personal. I had a mom, though, who sat at the table and told me, you're going to have to work twice as hard as everybody else. But if you want it, nobody's holding you back from it. Now, are you going to work twice as hard? And the answer is yes, ma'am. Yes, I want it. The problem is making the kids want it.
Yeah.
That's it. Because we do have to work twice as hard.
Yeah. I think that's the way it is for all of us. I think, theater has a place for everybody. But until the bug bites,
Mm-hmm.
it's just another activity. But once it does,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't matter. I mean, and I can tell you, over my years, how many times I've auditioned for shows and not gotten a part.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, for a long time, and I'd see who got the part, and I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Really? And going through that, and then, thinking, well, maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe and so
Maybe I'm the problem.
Yeah.
Or, yeah.
And so the idea is exactly what you're saying. If that is in our head that maybe I am, maybe we do need to take an extra step to work a little bit harder.
Yeah.
Find that connection,
Right.
and eventually it will come.
Right. Or you can tell the kids what I tell them. And that is, hey guys, I want you to look. I always draw the iceberg. And then I do the water. And I say, hey, this up here, these are the actors on stage. You see all this down here? This is everything else.
Right.
This is the magic of the theater. All this stuff below the water. Those people up there, yeah. People are going to pat on their back and go, oh, you did so good. But this stuff down here, this is where the magic happens. So
Yes.
you got to, and my kids right now are killing it in Drama 1-2 because they do the tech for the Drama 3-4 play. So that way everybody has to do tech at one time. And so, like, right now, they're like, Miss Bond, listen to my wicked awesome sound cue I put in Q Lab. And I was like, oh, that is awesome. So they're doing so good. And tracing stuff and making makeup plots and hair plots. And it's like, oh, they're just, and they're so proud of it. There's so much pride behind it. And I'm like, that's a theater kid. That's a theater kid.
Yep.
So.
And that's not an insult.
No, it is not.
I don't know where that came from.
I know. That's not an insult.
Why did theater kid become...
You're the most hireable person in the room. You're very versatile.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's just crazy why anybody would think a theater kid is an insult.
No, it's not. It's a compliment.
Okay. So, in our seat.
Yes.
So you Shawnee Middle, you went on to Shawnee, that was where you cut your teeth?
Oh, yeah.
Went to Shawnee High School, you got to grow.
Yeah, and use that beautiful space.
Oh, it's a beautiful theater.
Beautiful theater.
It kills me when I go to some of these places, you see some of these theaters that some of these high school kids have, and I'm like, I performed in a gym.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's crazy, that some of these kids are doing some of this stuff, and and then I go to some of these places like Muskogee Little Theater. Shout out to those guys, which I've told them like 3 or 4 times. You guys have got to take little out of your name. I mean, they have like over 200 and some odd seats in their auditorium, and it's just huge. And the stage is like 3, 4, 5 times the size of SLT.
It's
and
beautiful.
My God, no. You guys need to be community theater or something else. But
yeah,
take
not
the
little.
There's nothing little about this. So you took over at North Rock Creek. What was the drama department like when you got there?
It wasn't.
So you just had a blank slate.
Yes, there was absolutely nothing.
So did you come in with a vision, or did you have to just make it up on the fly.
Yes, I had a vision.
Okay, what was that?
I had a big vision. Well, first of all, I wanted a place where, like, I made a mission statement. That was the first thing I did, is make a mission statement. I had North Rock Creek has something that we do called Great Expectations, and Great Expectations is a educational model. And what they talk about is that if you have kids write a creed, if you have children write a creed, then they are invested in the empowerment of their own children, of themselves. And so the kids and I, we wrote the creed ourselves. And so I came in and I said, hey, the question is, what makes a good theater department? And they were like, we don't know because we don't have one.
Like, what's theater?
Right. And I said, well, what do you think makes a good theater department? What do you think would make a good one? Well, Nathaniel had a lot to say. He was a sophomore. It was he was the first graduating class, like his grade was. And so he had a lot to say because he had watched Shawnee High School.
Sure.
And so he had a lot of what he loved about Shawnee High School and things that he was like, I watched you cry about this, Mom. I didn't like that, or I watched this. And by the way, they're things that I have cried about at North Rock. So it's nothing that Shawnee had done.
So it's not like a Cinderella story?
No, it's not. No, what it is it's the heartbreak and joy of every theater teacher because they love their kids.
Of course.
But anyway, he was like, we need to have grace for each other.
That's good.
Grace is important because we all have really different personalities, but we all need each other, even though we might not naturally hang out with each other outside of class. Like, you might be this kind of kid and you might be this kind of kid, but when we're in here, we can't make the art unless we're... And I said, that's 100% true. If y'all went to Shawnee Little Theater and you're in a play, you would see that there are lawyers with teachers and teachers with like people who work at OG&E, like working linemen. And there's like people, you know what I mean? We're all from different walks of life, And I said, not only that, but this will get you ready for the real world, because in a real job, this was like, you're going to be, somebody believes something politically different from you. Somebody believes something religiously different from you. I said, you're going to have to understand that people are different and they still have value.
Absolutely.
So that's one thing that they said. Another thing that they said is that we are going to leave our personal drama outside the door. So that was one thing that they wanted to focus on. They also wanted to focus on the fact that we oftentimes get really tired and want to be like not committed. Like we want to break our commitments. But that if we get lackadaisical in our commitment, that the whole thing will collapse. And I said, I will say this, that is super duper important, that you come to the rehearsals and that you treat this like it is a commitment, just like it's a sport or just like it's something, I said, how many of you have played sports? And they would raise their hand and I'd say, that's right, you have to do XYZ for that sport. What would happen if you didn't show up to football? They'd run us until we puke. And I said, I'm not a big fan of puke. So I don't want that. I said, I would prefer you just to come. So, but I mean, we have resorted to things like, you don't know your lines, you miss 5 lines, so you run around the theater. I mean, we do stuff like that. I mean, you miss this many times, you're out of the play, you're recast. I mean, we have rules like that because kids have problems with commitment because that's their age.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
And it's good for them to know because, by the way, we were talking about kids and getting jobs. They be calling in sick just for fun. They'll call in. Some of them just completely no show.
Mm-hmm.
They do that to me. That's the last play that they're going to be in because I need commitment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I tell them when they're in my classroom, the way they treat me in my classroom, they're auditioning for the next play, you know? So in my classroom, you're showing me extreme disrespect right now. Is that what I am to expect if you are cast in my play? They go, oh, no, Miss Bond, I'm sorry, I had a bad day. Well, you know what? You'll have bad days during a play. Straighten up, fly right, or we're not doing this. And they're, oh, yes, ma'am, I'm sorry. You know, and I'm like, okay, be on your best, okay? This is how I'm going to treat you right. You treat me right, you know? And so they're, okay. But anyway, they said that they wanted that. But the most important thing we talked about is the fact that in high school, they have an inclination to want to turn to somebody else and tell somebody else their problems. And it's usually about somebody else within the cast. This is a rampant problem. I promise every theater educator you will talk to will say the same thing. The infighting and gossip within the theater. And it's because insecurity is God, it seems, in a theater department. And I think that it gets really bad right around auditions. Kids will start making up stories and saying things like, I know Miss Bond is going to cast me in this role. And I'm like, when has Miss Bond ever precast anything? I've cast the 8th grader as the lead once. How the seniors like that? You know, it's like, right? I mean, I don't precast.
Yeah.
In fact, I think I've only precast one role at Shawnee Little Theater ever in the plays that I've directed at Shawnee Little Theater. Just because I want to go in and go, I'm so excited to see what's going to happen. You know what I mean? Just because who knows what could stumble in.
Absolutely.
Who knows, somebody that was like, I just want to try, might be amazing. And it's like new, fresh blood in the theater. Let's more of that, you know?
Absolutely.
So, and who knows, that kid might come out and that might change the trajectory of that kid's life. Yeah. So I'm totally open to whatever. So, but they will start saying little things, or they'll come and try to smear a kid and be like, this kid did this. And I'm like, hey, I'm not hearing it. I'm not here to play that game. Yeah. Let me off your crazy train. So, bye. Toodaloo.
Yeah.
Toodaloo.
If I didn't see it happen on my stage,
right.
I don't care.
Yeah. Toodaloo.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really hard. And from Shawnee all the way through, of course, you have parents call and text and, you know, my child and, you know, stuff like that, which is hard to believe that happens, but it happens in sports. It happens in, you know what I mean? But my admin is extremely supportive. So if I ever have issues like that, they're like, it's okay, Bond, you're doing good. You know, you love the kids, you're working hard, you know. But, and I understand to an extent, because parents are super protective of their children. And I remember crying my eyes out when I didn't get roles. Usually I did it in my room underneath a pillow because I didn't want my mom to hear, because she was the director that didn't cast me. But it's really hard.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah. My mom was the one that didn't cast me. Yeah. And she'd usually from the other room be like, suck it up, you know, but
you'll get over it.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I understand. It's hard, but you know, I don't know, the beauty of this theater department, I think at North Rock Creek, and what makes them different is the fact partially that we don't have a space. Mm-hmm. We don't have a space, and so everything does take so much work. They have to, because we will act in either the cafeteria, which is 10 times more work than the gym, because we have to change it from a cafeteria to an acting space. And so those kids every day, and those kids move all that stuff and they move it back. And all I have to do is say cast, and they say, yes, it's time to change this cafeteria into a stage. Thank you, change it to a stage. And then 15 to 20 of them are doing it. It's done within 5 minutes. They're ready to go. Cast, we're done with today's rehearsal. Let's change it back to a cafeteria. Thank you, change it back to a cafeteria. And then they move it back. Some of them are not being like, la, la, la. Some of them are like, okay, let's take it back. But they do it.
Sure.
They do it, which tells me that they love it so much that they'll do it. You know, sometimes their hearts are broken from the day because high school's hard, middle school's hard. Sometimes they need to stop for a second and get a hug. And I say, y'all want to take a break for a second? Yeah, Miss Bond, it's really a rough day. I don't know. This is really hard. I can't wait till we have our black box, you know. But they work so hard for what they have. And they appreciate it. They really, really do. And that, to me, is worth it. I hope when they get more than what they have, they appreciate it just as much as they do what they have now. That's what I'm hoping.
That'd be good. Answered a lot of those questions, so we can just move on forward. You've said that drama is a place where vulnerability becomes art. That students open up, become self-aware, and you get to witness those discoveries. How does the idea of vulnerability shape the way you run your classroom or rehearsal room?
Did you see the Golden Globes?
I did not.
Okay, well, the big winner, the big, movie winner this year was Hamnet.
Mm-hmm.
And the director, and I want to say her name right, Chloe Zhao, I think is how you say her last name. She goes up there with Steven Spielberg, and Steven Spielberg says, I've executive produced this. It's been a joy. I believe in this story, that from the greatest tragedy, or from his greatest personal tragedy, came the greatest tragedy that was ever written, and all this stuff. And then she comes up and she starts to talk about directing it. And she talks about how it took a whole village to direct it. And it was so important. But then she says, can I mention what you said? And turns to the actor who played Shakespeare.
Hmm.
And he said, yeah, you can mention what I said. And she said that we have to play all of ourselves, including like the good and the bad parts of us. So that somebody out there can say, I accept myself the way I am. So that somebody can look at that and say that I'm bad in that way too. And I'm looking at that actor, or I'm looking at that character, and I have grace for him. If I have grace for him, why can't I have grace for me?
Oh.
That's the most beautiful thing I heard from the whole night. And I was like, yes, yes, and yes. This is why I love Arthur Miller. This is why I hate competition. We were laughing about competition because when we went to state one year with North Rock Creek, it was our first time to go to state, and it was so exhilarating. The kids were super excited. One judge gave us first place at regionals. Another judge gave us absolute last place. And I was like, okay. You know what? It's subjective. That's just what it is.
Yeah.
That's how it is. But the judge who gave us last place said, I really don't think high schoolers have any business messing with Arthur Miller work. I don't want to watch high schoolers touch Arthur Miller. That is something only professional theater should do. And
why are you gatekeeping?
Right. But my argument was, and by the way, they did give us some really good notes. So I didn't throw away the baby with the bathwater. I listened because there were some really great notes from that specific judge. But what my argument is Arthur Miller is the king of having the protagonist who has redeeming qualities and the antagonist who has redeeming qualities and the protagonist who has flaws.
Absolutely.
And I love that because that's me. When I am the antagonist, I'm redeemable. When I am the protagonist, I have flaws. I am all good and I am all bad.
And sometimes they're both.
all the time. Yes. Yes. And so like this vulnerability, kids will say, "Oh, I hate this character." And I say, "No, no, 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 no." And one of the kids asked me the other day, "Miss Bond, I think you would love your character even if you played Hitler." And it's made me laugh. I said, "Well, there's a reason why Hitler's the way he is." And they all cracked up and they were like, "Miss Bond, Miss Bond." And I said, "No, I'm just saying your job as an actor, if you were playing Hitler, is to ask yourself why he is the way he is. Not to say, I hate him and sit there and just dwell on the fact that he would later kill 6 million Jews."
Yeah.
I said, as horrible as that sounds coming from your Jewish teacher. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That is not your job. Your job is to try to get into the headspace of that, or the internal monologue of that character. That's your job.
And they're not always good people. Because
No.
most of your biggest stories have some of the dirtiest people.
Yeah.
Because that's what helped make the story.
Right.
I tell people a lot. It's like, somebody's got to play Judas.
Somebody's got to. Right.
Without Judas, the story's not complete.
Right.
I remember playing Bob Ewell in To Kill a Mockingbird.
Yeah.
Probably the nastiest role I've ever played. But it had to be there.
It did.
Without him, the story it didn't happen.
Yeah, it doesn't have the purpose and meaning that it needs. That's how I felt about the effective Game Raise on Man in the Moon Marigolds whenever I played the mom. Because she's just, and I would take her home. And I would take that character off when I got home. And I would be intentional in the way that I would take her off. Because I would say, I am not her in the way that I will be supportive and encouraging to my children. I am her in the way that I love and feel protected by my father. I am not her in the way that this, and I am her in the way that this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I would be very intentional, and just because of the fact that I don't want to keep that on, But the kids in class, when they're vulnerable, you should see it, Tim. Well, I know you have, because you've been in plays, but not just kids, but new actors. I am with new actors all day. So I get to see the aha moment or the bug biting as it happens. And
awesome.
So when they're there in class and they finally let down the wall and they do, there's a student I have, his name is Benny. And he was very robotic and tight and worried about not knowing his lines. And when he finally got into the headspace of the character and finally started doing it, it was like one day it's like the wall broke and he started doing the lines and the entire cast stopped and it was like dead silence. And everybody just started clapping, like the real slow clap at first. And then they were like, "Benny, yes. And I said, "Guys, Benny came to play today. Let's go. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going."
Now,
yeah. And Benny was like, I felt it. It was different. And I was like, "You weren't you. You became the character. It was so good. It was so good, babe." And I get to see that over and over and over again. And it's when the kids stop caring about their own internal monologue, which is, oh, am I going to remember this? This is that one part that I have a really hard time with. And when they start going, I am this person. I'm having internal monologue as the character. And it snaps. And they're like, yes, I got it. It's so beautiful when it happens.
Nice. So, what's something that people don't see about running a high school theater program? You were talking about the iceberg,
Yeah.
And what I've learned over the years is so much of that, all of this down under here is usually done by the theater teacher.
Yeah. my ADHD has gotten so much better because I say it's gotten better. I don't know if it's just that my husband has gotten better at like reminding me. No, he doesn't necessarily remind me of all those things because I think every play he is impressed because he knows that I'm like, where are my keys? And he is like, that I can help with. But the other stuff, no. But like my plan is first hour, which is the most glorious gift ever given to me by my admin. Because it's when I'm like, I hit the ground running and I get everything ready. Like my usual plan period consists of calls to MTI, Music Theater International. It consists of me filling out purchase orders for Amazon, Lowe's. It consists of me putting in leave reports for the Oklahoma Thespian Festival. It's got me setting up the projector in the cafeteria, which is on the main stage for the set design team who come in second hour to trace. It's set up for me making copies of the film history exam. It's filled with, and all this stuff has to happen within 45 minutes. And so, like, I am trying to get this stuff all done. I have to send a message to the front office with all of the people's names that are going to be gone on the Thezfest trip. I have to send a list of them to the cafeteria so that they don't get counted for lunch the day that they're going. I have to, I mean, it's so many I's to dot and T's to cross. And so, on top of that, I come home and I'm like, hey, Michael Schwab, shout out to my workplace soulmate, Michael Schwab, who does not get paid anything. He just comes of his own volition and kind heart and love for the craft, who comes and shares his immense knowledge with me, and Kevin, and shows us how to fix problems when we have scratched our heads like primates for hours, and goes, oh, you just do this. And I'm like, tab nabbit. Yeah. Anyway, but Michael Schwab, after hours, we're like, hey, Michael, how do you do this? Do you, we need to build a 2-story set for Newsies. This is the plans that we're looking at. What's the best structural way to build it so that, kids are safe, OSHA approved, I could go by like what they used to say. It only has to last 2 weeks. But anyway, yeah, it's those things are happening at night. Now my house, I have turned my garage into a scenic shop / because we don't have a space for it at my school. So my house is a scenic shop, costume shop, which, by the way, I'm really proud of my costume shop. It's pretty impressive now. Like, it's like a mini Shawnee Little Theater.
Oh.
Like, I've got stuff.
What?
I know. It's pretty impressive. Like, you could give me a time period and I could just go, let's see if I got the size. Like, it's pretty impressive. I'm just saying.
Well, there you go.
Note to self, Tim. Anyway, so it's pretty spiffy. And then I've got a makeup area and an area with hats. I got chef hats and like alpine hats and like little dwarf hats. And what, you need an animal headband with ears? Pick an animal. Squirrel? Yeah, I got it. Like, I mean, I got it all in there. And so I've got this all set up. I got it all. I'm pretty impressed with my setup. I'm sorry. This happened over Christmas break.
Hey.
Like, some people in their free time are like, like watching things on Netflix. No. I'm making like an animal headband collection.
That would mean that you had to sit still.
Yeah, I can't do that. That's the ADD. That's right. So, yeah. So in the evening times, I'm out there pulling costumes or putting costumes back from the last play because we do 4 a year. So I'm putting back or pulling out. So I have a prop collection that's out there now. So I was pulling props, just getting the stuff ready. So yeah, it's crazy.
Very cool. Yeah, I say, and Julie kind of agrees with me and my wife, that this podcast was kind of born out of my ADHD because I didn't have enough going on my
Well,
schedule.
it's kind of a superpower.
Okay,
I solely believe that.
I'll take it.
I think that ADHD is a superpower.
Yeah, I'll take it.
I mean, for us anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, other people. I mean, I look at the kids in my class that have it. It doesn't feel like a superpower yet, but I told them, I was like, I want to give you detention now, but later in life, you're going to be awesome.
Yeah.
But today,
You're not.
You're killing me, Smalls.
Yeah.
You're killing me.
They just haven't learned how to use it yet.
That's right.
If-
Use it for good, not for evil.
That's right. With great power comes great
responsibility. That's right.
Okay, so looking ahead, looking into the future, if we fast forward 5 years, what do you hope the NRC drama department looks like?
Well, I hope that this bond issue passes in February.
We're not talking about Brandy Bond.
No. There's a bond issue coming in February. And if it passes, then my new classroom will be a black box. And that black box will have opportunities for my students that they have never had. That will be the first, and very grateful. I will be very grateful for that if that happens. If it doesn't happen, then I will tell you this. I talked to a theater in Oklahoma City that does found space theater, and they had talked to me about, why are you not doing found space theater? If your kids are as good as I hear they are, which they are, I will say right now, I have some really talented kids. And Cooper Lincoln's super talented, but he's not the only talented kid I have. I mean, he went to the Kelly O'Hara Awards, and he's a great singer and actor, but I got other kids who are super duper talented too. Like, he's the only one that like has gone out and like done stuff with lots of other kids from other schools, but I got lots of kids who are super talented. We could go out and do found space theater. So yes, I would love to have a space of our own. But as Shakespeare said, all the world's a stage.
Right.
And so we have children with immense talent. We have a teacher with immense passion. We have an unlimited amount of beautiful dramatic literature to do. And I've got a killer costume closet. What could you want?
Really?
I mean, what more?
What else do you need?
What else?
What do you need?
What else do you need? You just need people to come and see and watch it.
That's it.
That's right.
So what else, what's still on your personal artistic bucket list? Roles, shows, projects, whatever.
I want to do John Proctor's The Villain. I really want to do that play. I loved seeing it at UCO. Shout out to UCO for that. UCO's theater department, I am blown away. I'm blown away by them. I want to go see more of OSU's theater too. But yeah. UCO, I went and I saw one of my former students, Jaden Brown. He played Nate in John Proctor's The Villain, and I went to go watch him, and he was fabulous in it. And I'm not surprised because he's just an amazing actor. But he was in the first graduating class at North Rock Creek, and he's getting a degree in theater from UCO, graduates in May. And he invited me to see it, and it was wonderful. And Sadie Sink won the Tony for it. And she was wonderful. If you don't know who Sadie Sink is Sam from Stranger Things.
Stranger Things. Yeah.
Yes. So, but it's a wonderful play since I love the Crucible anyway, John Proctor is The Villain is a new way to look at it. And it also raises the question about inappropriate relationships between teachers and students. And you would think that that would be an uncomfortable topic for a teacher to tackle, but not when you're a teacher who doesn't have inappropriate relationships with students. It doesn't, not at all. But I love this. I love this play because I love looking at this from a different point of view, because you always think about John Proctor as being like poor guy and Abby's so evil. But if you think about it, the age construct and the power construct really raises a question, because he was in control. He was the guy who was, had the power in the relationship. He was the boss. She was the servant, and she was younger. And of course this is a fictitious story. So, but society makes you, look at it in one way in the 1950s, makes you look at it a little different now. And so anyway, it raises interesting questions. It doesn't make you necessarily decide anything, but it makes you ask the question. And that's what I like. So anyway, that one's really good.
Okay. What do you hope that your students will carry with them long after they leave your program?
Have grace. More than anything else. I have a student named Hannah Sadie who, she's getting her, she's in a master's program right now at OU. She graduated from Shawnee, and I had her in middle school and in high school. And she said that that's the thing that she remembers most. And I couldn't be more pleased that from my classroom, she remembers me saying, have grace. Because I know that it's really hard to be perfect in this life. And I know that all of us will say things that we regret, do things that we regret, and will mess up. And that's just being human. And the minute we look at somebody and say, oh, well, you've gone too far. Your humanity is just too human for me.
Cool.
You know what I mean? That's the minute we stop being able to connect to each other.
Right. And
that is when we stop having empathy. That's when we, and to me right now, the lack of empathy in the world. Everywhere. And I see it in my kids.
Well, yeah, because they're feeding off of
the adults in their life.
Yeah,
and yes. And I'm like, hey, the person next to you is a human. I mean, and the humanity that is missing is going to get us in trouble. And that's why the arts is so important right now.
Absolutely.
It's so important because it's a gymnasium for empathy. And I'm like, come on. Get in there and say, I actually care about what somebody else feels. Yeah. I'll put on somebody else's skin for a second and feel what they're feeling. Yeah, I will.
It's not always easy.
Oh, it's hard as heck. It's hard.
And it's ugly. And it stinks and all that. But yeah. Okay, so as we wrap this up, one thing I always like to do, because there could be times, even like in this one, that things can get kind of heavy and we can feel things and all. So we always try to end it on a light note. And I always try to throw in what I call my casting call curveballs. I always like they're just off the wall, just usually the first thing that pops into your head when I ask these questions. So they can be fun. First one, what is your go-to karaoke song and why?
Fergalicious by Fergie. And I think it's because it's not expected by anybody. They don't think that Miss Bond would sing a Fergie song because it's incredibly inappropriate. for Miss Bond to be singing Fergalicious. Make them boys go loco.
There you go. Yeah. But it's funny as heck.
It is funny, and I can't, there's nothing else I could tell you about that.
Okay. If theater vanished tomorrow and you had to pick a completely different career, what would you do instead?
Freddie Alcino's.
Oh.
Freddie Alcino's is and I know this for a fact. Kevin and I, my husband and I, decided that we're going to open a restaurant called Freddie Alcino's. Okay. And it has a sister company that's Teddy Alvino's. Okay. And we're going to have like dueling Italian restaurants and see which one does better. But anyway, but yeah. And sometimes when we cook food, we'll like eat it, and Kevin and I will say, this is Freddie Alcino's quality. Like, it's so good it could be at our restaurant. And I actually got him a t-shirt with like a guy on it, like giving like an okay sign, and he's got like the chef hat and the big Italian mustache, and it says, at Freddie's you're like family.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. It's a whole thing. I'd be working at Freddie Alcino's.
Okay. That's fair. If you could host a dinner with 3 theater people from any era, who's at the table?
Okay. I would have Arthur Miller, clearly. Although I feel he probably would be some kind of a jerk. I think he's probably smug, but I still would want him there. Okay.
I don't care.
Okay. Yeah.
Whatever.
I want him there. And then I would also want Mel Brooks. Oh my gosh, I want Mel Brooks there. Okay.
Arthur Miller would leave.
I doubt it. I think he'd stay. Okay, Mel Brooks, and because The Producers is the biggest Tony Award winning play of all time. Okay, and then the last one would be Jeremy Jordan, just to make the girls in my class scream.
Oh my goodness.
Because they'd be like, "Do you have to see Jeremy Jordan?"
Oh my goodness.
And I'd be like, "Yeah, I did." But anyway.
Yeah, it sounds familiar. Anyway. Okay, so what's something that you geek out about that has nothing to do with theater?
Okay. Oh, but they all do. What do I keep?
Well, yeah, we can turn anything back to theater.
I know. Okay. Craig jigs. I love Craig jigs.
Craig jigs.
Yeah, they make pocket holes. I learned how to use a Craig jig, and I'm like all about it. I'm like, can I join it with a pocket hole? If you showed me how to make dovetails, I'd probably be even more nerdy about it. Like, I love making furniture. Like, I want to make like heirloom furniture that my great-grandchildren can have. Like I told Kevin, before I die, I want to make a piece of furniture that's so sturdy, like that people are going to be like, was this made in like, who made this? What company made this? Not a company, sir. Brandy Bond. You know what I mean? Because I love building stuff. And now that we have the workshop, I could be like, it's summertime. I'm off for the summer. I'm making a bench or I'm making a dresser, Yeah. So
I like it.
It's so good.
Okay, so as we say goodbye, you have any parting words of wisdom for the people listening? Kids or adults, either way.
Just remember that people are humans. Remember that people are humans. The whole reason that we do theater, we tell kids in our definitions that, theater is to entertain, inform, and educate and all that. We say all the words that the kids are supposed to write down on the notes and everything. But I just always come back to the word catharsis, which is the Greek word that means to change something back or change something to where it won't ever go back to the way it was. I can't tell you how many times I've seen a piece of theater that has changed me and I'll never be the same.
Mm.
That's why we keep doing it. Because we want to make sure that people have an awareness or an awakening to an idea that they'll never be the same again. And they will say, now I understand. Now I see. I didn't see before, but now I do. And that's what I want. I want kids to say, I never looked close enough to understand that, or I never stopped long enough to see that. So it's just a moment for them to realize more. So catharsis. And I tell the kids that. I said I could tell you all day long to entertain, inform, and educate, but catharsis is what we want. We want catharsis. We want people to leave and to always remember what they felt. So
That's so good. In case you guys hadn't noticed, Brandy feels a lot of things. She's a very emotional person, and she passes that on, and not just to the kids. Having been on stage, Brandy is probably one of my more influential director friends. Definitely impacted my career. So thank you, Brandy, for being a part of this. Thank you for being a part of theater. Thank you for being a part of the lives of those young people that you influence every day.
thank you.
So for everybody else listening at home, thank you for giving us a little bit of your time. Thank you for taking time out of your day to tune in and check this out. If you want to hear more, you can go to our website, oklahomaonstage.org. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and on YouTube. We appreciate you being here. Continue to tell stories, and no matter what you do, continue to support the arts.